Okay, let's call to order. Pledge of Allegiance is first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to read a little statement here. Our last board meeting, I was embarrassed over our audience's behavior. We had children in our audience, but it was not the children in our audience who are acting juvenile. A public meeting should be an event where we as adults can maintain proper decorum as adults. I can understand that adults will not always agree on everything. However, yelling and interrupting a public body's business is not the correct way for adults to behave if they disagree. As adults, we should be setting a proper example for our youth. Unfortunately, our last board meeting, this was not done. The behavior of our audience did not set the example I think anyone would want for our youth. Therefore, I'd like to be very clear that improper behavior will not be allowed in the future. School board meetings are a place where the district's business is conducted and shared with the public up to the extent allowed by law. We do not want our district to be sued or lose money that we want to maintain in our budget for the betterment of our children. Therefore, if someone in the audience interrupts our meeting, they will ask to be excused from the audience. If they do not excuse themselves, they will be escorted out of the building. I want everyone to be able to attend these meetings if that is their desire, but no one will be allowed to make this public meeting a shouting match or display behavior that would be improper for our children to watch. Okay, approval of agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, we have 27 public comments. I will summarize that 25 of them support administrative contract action by the board at a recent meeting. One of those commenters makes an additional comment about supporting traditional teaching methods and education and concerns regarding the content taught in schools. Another one supports focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic. A third makes the comment again regarding content taught in schools and concern regarding volunteer vaccination requirements. A fourth, they have made the same comment among the 25, but also appreciate that curriculum this year is more accessible. A commenter makes 3 points, a concern for administrator contracts not being extended, concern for people of color, and the district needs to continue to grow in diversity. Another one is, again, concern regarding the content in schools. Each of those comments also had the original supporting of the board decision. Finally, one comment, concern about academic effects of COVID and concern about student behavior. And then finally, a separate comment from all of the above, concern about the impact on children of the public comment submitted by the GAEA, the Teachers Union President, public comment regarding Meadow Ridge, which occurred some months ago. That's it.
Okay. Next up is superintendent comments.
Board business.
Board business, I don't believe we have any. Well, I should cover it.
Don't we have the opportunity to comment?
Oh, yeah. Board business.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Today, there was a sad event in Louisville, Kentucky that reminded us again how important law enforcement is to our world. There was an active shooter. The police responded within 3 minutes and were able to put the perpetrator down. One of the officers just had graduated. His name is Nick Wilt. Just graduated March 31st from the academy, was just sworn in, and was forced to run into the line of fire and save many lives. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our police officers, the Albany Police, Lane County Sheriffs, Oregon State Police, for doing what you do, putting yourself in harm's way and keeping us safe and allowing us to be free in America. Thank you. Really appreciate that. The other thing I want to talk about is I was able to come and view the curriculum today. There's a lot of people who were concerned about it. I got a chance to look at it. It looked awesome to me. I especially enjoyed the math books. I was able to follow along and actually remember some of my algebra and geometry, which was great. But it was really well laid out. And if you get a chance, I would recommend you come see it. They did a fabulous job. I think we get a presentation later. I don't want to take too much of their thunder, but I was impressed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, superintendent comments?
Yeah, I have a goals report, which I will be bringing to you later in the month, but just a few things to cover tonight. First of all, the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Want to make a correction to the newspaper article. Mr. Cervantes his contract was not lengthened, but it was not shortened. And at the time of his resignation last week, had a contract that was the same length as Mr. Bolin and Mrs. Knopfziger. They are non-certificated positions that they occupy. And so that, I believe he was reported as having been dealt with severely, and that is not the case. We wish him the very best in his new position. We have opened the EDI director position, and we are awaiting 2 more confirmations to serve on the committee. And we will be looking forward to doing that work. That will close on the 21st of April. And we are hearing good leads on the applicants that could be considered. There are a couple things that I want to speak about tonight because obviously I have been here a short time. Any given action is often over-interpreted. And I want to talk to you about 3 general facts in the district that I will orient from. The first, we have heard much from our school staff about crowding. I've had many questions in the community about the crowding in our schools. Today, we have approximately 9,100 students in our schools. In 1919, 1920, we had 9,550 students in our schools. Each school, with the exception of 2 or 3 schools total, has declined in population since 2019, 2020. That is not an Albany issue. That is consistent across the state. And the students have left our schools due to COVID, to going online, to families figuring out that'll work for us, to other students who have simply fallen away and we don't know where they are. There are many of those in the state. And finally, there are those who have moved their children to private schools. I can't give you a number for each of those, but that is a large fact as we work to build a budget with which we receive money on a per student basis. The second fact, GAPS has currently just short of 35% of its students who represent minority and underrepresented populations. 65% about are white students. But each cohort, our 12th grade all the way to our kindergarten, are different than that. 35% is the average. Our high school cohorts are less than that, 32%. Our elementary are more. It is a trend that we have seen for 30 years. Since we have begun to count, we have seen that we are becoming more diverse each year. That will continue. A 4th grader in our district this year will graduate in 2031. They will then work, have families, be voters, all the way till 2070. And each of those years, this community will become more diverse. That is a fact. We as educators will need to account for that as we prepare these kids to go forth beyond, and I'm just making a general assessment. There are some people in this room that are like me. You're not going to see 2070, but it will come, and we will be diverse more and more so. And our students must learn to operate in that because it is really important that they do so. And they have to begin to learn that now. Finally, 2006, I was given actually, I think it was a 2006 book, but in about 2012, I was given a copy of the book, The Coming Jobs War. And it referred to the coming shortage of workers in our society, in America, and certainly in Albany. That is, the shortage that we see right now is not just a product of people dropping out due to COVID. It is a jobs war and a shortage that is created by the baby boomers beginning to retire in larger numbers, fewer people able to step forward and take their places. And it is a shift in the way we must think. As we grow more diverse and as the jobs in this community become harder to fill, it is imperative that the outcomes for all of our kids help us to meet those outcomes. This community, as it becomes more diverse, has to step up and make sure that the kids who come through our system are equally skilled to be able to make, to fill jobs so that this community can remain strong, regardless of their background and their diversity. And so the passions of the moment, to me, are underlaid by these very powerful facts and trends. We don't see them every day. They are occurring, and they have been occurring. And that guides me in what we do. We are a divided district in some ways. We have a lot of work to do here to build our systems. We have different schools. Many are islands. Mrs. Knopfziger, our business manager, has been working overtime this year, and I think you're beginning to see the fruits of her labor in terms of what we're doing fiscally, and there's a lot more work to do in all ways. This board last spring passed a strategic plan that had 3 outcomes in it. The first was equitable outcomes for our students. The second was social and emotional supports for our students, very prescient now as we come out of COVID. And the third was rigorous and engaging instruction. And this board voted for that. When I came to prepare to apply for the job and met people, I shared that's important. It's important work and we have to do it. I did not find one employee. I still have not found an employee that opposes that. I have not seen an action by this board that would not allow that. The posting of the equity director came and went without comment, and we are working on replacing him. So in the long run, I do not believe that this is a zero-sum game. I do not believe that to give something to one is to take it from another. It is to improve our instruction the way we do it. It has always been good instruction to bring to any lesson an activity that allows students to bring their backgrounds to the learning. That has been good teaching since I became a teacher. I won't even disclose how long ago that was. That is what we should do. That can lift all students. If great teaching occurs, a rising tide will lift all boats. That is what I support. Finally, I'm an educator, have been, never regretted my decision to do this work. It is against my very belief that we would do something that would take away safety and a sense of belonging for any given student. And I do not intend to do that. Thank you for listening. I have a couple more things to say. We are bargaining with the teacher union at this time. Communication went out today. Much like everything else, this is a slow lift. The teachers made the allegation there are several unfair labor practices. I am not prepared to deny them because we have a lot of schools doing a lot of different things. And we will work with them, we will understand those things, and we will move forward and continue. We did not dismiss or deny that bargaining had taken place. We know that we had Nancy Hungerford and Heather and a committee meeting with the teachers. We know that there are some unresolved issues. The question that I asked merely was, under what conditions are we bargaining? Not that we are bargaining. I want to make that clear. And then finally, you guys are going to see at your table a calendar, and in that calendar is a couple of adjustments, and we will bring that back to you here at the next meeting. Best.
Okay, thank you. G, board reports. Board member reports? Anyone? Okay. I will talk to something. I've talked to our superintendent about this a little bit, and for new business kind of thing. I want our middle schools to have more tools and controls to correct the poor behaviors in our middle schools. Therefore, I'm going to ask for a vote at the next meeting to create a middle school behavior committee. I think we need to empower our those schools and those teachers to correct some of the problems we're having there. And so that's something we'll move forward on. No other board members want to speak?
Mr. Chair, I would like to propose to the school board that we inform the school district to prepare and draft a policy allowing parents to request to have their child remain in their current grade if they are not passing at the end of the year. Currently, we do not hold students back. It is not fair to our students to be pushed forward when they're not ready. And unfortunately, we have tied parents' hands. I would like the board's consensus to instruct the district to prepare a policy.
What?
Can we even do that? I mean,
I would
there's
like
a rule
to,
around every corner and under every piece of carpet.
let's do some research and we'll send that out on email. Right,
Preparing the policy.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other board members? Okay. Student reports. Who's first up? You're missing out on golf today. It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful.
To start off with club updates, Key Club is going on their annual Kiwanis Storm Breakers trip with the Kiwanis group in Albany. That's this Saturday. The South Albany Youth Activism Club had a joint beach trip with West Albany Environmental. I saw Hadley on that trip as well. Through the Calipio watershed, where we had a beach cleanup and a visit to the Hatfield Science Day. FCCLA went to the state competition and leadership meeting March 16th through 18th. 3 students placed silver, 1 placed bronze, and we had 1 student qualify for nationals in Colorado. We're looking to possibly have another state officer and also working on a senior send-off for these students in that club. For AVID and AVID leadership, we had an all-grade spring party and egg hunt last Friday, and we're working on an AVID's awards night these coming weeks. For Drama Club, they had a bake sale last Friday during lunch to help fund for theater and state, and essentially sold out most of their treats. For library happenings, we have extended library hours Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. The library is open until 4:30. Students can come in, rent books, and study, and have a place to be quiet, and that is quiet. Last month was Women's History Month. We had a couple guest speakers, including a Native American guest speaker from OSU and a nursing professor. There are also Earth Day activities all of this month, including planter boxes, and Foods is working on a outdoor garden for herbs and spices. Red Hawks Rising session is happening right now. And for those who don't know, that is Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. Students can come in and get teacher help and work together to make up and turn in late work. And that current session runs until this Thursday, I believe. Leadership is hosting prom April 29th at the OSU Alumni Center. They also have a blood drive April 26th, and are hoping to get more donors than break our current records. March Madness is just wrapping up this week, despite it being April. We got the ball rolling on that one a little slow. ASB elections is also starting off with applications due this Wednesday. We're working on finding my replacement, and as I am graduating. Sports and activities, music, United Harmony, and the Ascend a cappella group and jazz ensemble all qualified for state. And fingers crossed, we hope they're all going. Ascend also just got back from their Disney World trip over spring break. And theater and drama have an audition workshop May 12th. Track and field had their senior night last Tuesday. Boys tennis has a nonstop win streak so far, and congratulations are in order for the South Albany Winter Academic All-State. A couple of our teams ranked in each sport by CHRM GPA. Boys swimming getting second and 3.91 GPA. Girls basketball getting fourth and a 3.83 GPA. And girls swimming getting fifth and a 3.78 GPA. And boys basketball getting 15th and a 3.42 GPA. 8th grade visits are next week, where next year's incoming freshmen can come and get a preview of high school. They get tours from our leadership kids and also just a briefing of what high school life is like. They also get an opportunity for clubs and groups to introduce themselves to new students and possibly find new recruits in the incoming freshmen. Admin are working hard to improve the bathroom situation with rolling out a new and more convenient electronic hall pass, making it so students can just hold up their phone and get teacher approval on a computer and everything. It's really neat. They're also putting up posters supporting equity with support from the SIAC Club. And more frustrating news, juniors do not like the fact that smarter balance testing is happening for the month of April, but as goes with most testing, starting with English, language arts, math, and finishing with science. And then Mr. Hunter wanted me to throw in a comment that he dressed nicely this week.
Thank you.
I want to begin by honoring Abigail Hart, who won the National Art Award. As shared on our district website, Abigail is one of only 6 Oregon students to win a 2023 National Gold Medal for Scholastic Art and Writing. Abigail is a student in Miss Grunwald's AP Art class and Miss Wallace's painting class and earned this recognition for her piece, Silver Lining. Abigail was honored during an award ceremony at WAS on Thursday, April 6th, and the art piece will be exhibited at Carnegie Hall in New York City for the National Scholastic Art Ceremony in June. LGBTQ plus focus group will meet at lunch Tuesday, April 11th. LGBTQ plus students and allies are invited to attend. These are regular meetings. The old school dance is in the main gym this Friday, April 14th. Upperclassmen will be able to enter at 8 and the underclassmen at 8:30. Tickets will be on sale this week during lunch for $10. It's personally one of my favorite dances because you see a lot of decades. Model UN Conference is happening this Thursday through Saturday. This event has students from schools across Oregon come together to represent a country in global conflicts. West is representing Norway. Sophomores and juniors Albany Chamber Youth Leadership 2023 applications are due this Friday. The Environmental Club joined South's Youth Activism Club for a weekend coast trip and tackled cleaning up Yaquina Bay State Beach. Prior to the event, the club went to the Hatfield Marine Science Center. There was also a keynote speaker there to talk about kelp forests. SBAC testing for English, math, and science has started for juniors. And AP tests are right around the corner beginning in May. National Honor Society mentoring students opportunity at West, where students that are interested in gaining individualized and actionable peer mentorship and guidance in areas such as college and scholarship applications, time management, and general school success. You can fill out a Google form and you can be mentored. That's what I'm trying to say. There was a crafts club meeting last Friday where students did DIY magnetic poetry. A career day occurred prior to spring break. For the last 2 years, West held career day virtually, so it was nice to be back in person. Many thanks to the numerous guests who joined us to share about their careers. The spring musical is Wizard of Oz. Tickets are available online, and the first performance is April 20th. Speech and debate districts was this weekend, and state is at the end of April. We had many qualifiers. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, committee, community, and school presentations. First up is our school resource officer report. I'd like to welcome Chief Harnden and Officer Bell and Officer Williams.
Good evening, board. Superintendent Gardner.
Evening.
So in front of you is the stats for this quarter. You may know or notice that it's a little different, that there's a couple more categories added. And the reason for this is last quarter that we presented these, it was all about the arrests and the referrals of juveniles. When after that, I spoke with the chief, and I think that what the other things that Officer Bell and I do with students is far outweighs the referrals and the arrests. We have contacts with students and school staff on the daily basis where we educate students about behaviors and the consequences of their behaviors, as well as we also intervene and aside from educate, basically telling them what any further actions can result in, and that's kind of their warning. And so I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention, that there is additional categories on this report this quarter, and that's what it's for, the intervention and education piece. And when we bring our wellness dog to the schools is also included in there, I believe. And so that's the change. So I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, our job in the schools is not just to arrest and refer. We do so much more than that, and we wanted the board to be aware of that. So
Thank you.
Yeah, is it going to be displayed on the screen?
Hopefully. Are we able to put it up on the screen? Overall, what's your experience been the last few months in the schools?
We've been busy. We've had some significant investigations. They've gone well at both high schools, but Jen and I have spent a lot of time in the schools on preventative education intervention capacities as well. So had some great interactions with students from elementary all the way up through high school, discussing behaviors ranging from, you know, threatening statements made in class. And, you know, some of it is sort of this post-COVID reality that we have where as a society, we've lost some social skills and what it is to live amongst each other and do that in a fair manner. But certainly some of the kids that, you know, they lost their second and third grade year, or their fourth and fifth grade year, to then just jump into that year that they returned, they had changed, a lot had changed. And so there was a lot of catch up. And so a lot of good interventions, a lot of great relationship building between students and us and faculty. So here's the first slide. This represents, I believe this is department wide. So this is all of APD, so patrol included. There were 19 reports taken where there was either a referral or some sort of report documenting an offense. You can see to the left there the breakdown of the types of calls, and then the breakdown in the center, what schools were impacted by those calls, and then description by race and sex to the right. And then if you go to the next slide, oh, that's the only one? Okay. If I remember correctly, there were 9 between Jen and I. And then there was a third slide that represented what Officer Williams was talking about, when we go to a school and it's not a investigation per se, we've been invited by a parent or a staff member to speak with a student about a topic that by far encapsulated. There was a pie chart on that slide that showed more than half of our time is spent in that capacity. So it's fantastic to and oftentimes parents are involved in that conversation. So you have the 3 significant authority figures in a student's life all at the table at the same time and can have an open conversation where parents provide input, police officers provide input, and as do school administrators. Sorry, those slides aren't up there. Any questions from the board?
Go for it, Brad.
Other than say thank you again. Really appreciate what you're doing. You guys are doing a great job in our schools and in our community. The other officers in the back, thank you again. Really appreciate you being there and all you do and the care you take to do it.
Thank you.
And I know probably all of us hear about it, but I have a couple kids in school, and they know where you guys are, and they're excited about it, and it's kind of funny. So it's kind of neat, and I'm really happy that you're out there having positive interactions with the kids. That's excellent. So thank you for that work. I think that is going to pay dividends in the future.
I don't want to sell out your class for Wednesday, but you have a class Wednesday night, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
At
Oh, yeah.
LBCC.
Good point.
Yeah,
Yep.
because I think
Yeah.
my 11-year-old son will be there and learning about the dangers of fentanyl,
Correct.
which is a huge, serious issue we have locally.
Absolutely.
And you've had this class before, and my family and I went, and it was excellent. It's really a scary reality what's out there in our community and the effect it's having on our youth. You all probably could talk to this, but we've had 2 to 3 people die in our community.
Yeah, the numbers are brutal, and so we'll have some of that information Wednesday night at LBCC. We hosted a similar forum last spring at the police department, and it was standing room only in our community room, and so we were able to get LBCC's theater, and so we'll be able to accommodate a lot more people to come and learn about fentanyl and its impact nationwide, but specifically in Lynn County and Albany.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was really informative. If you haven't gone, my kids are now 8th and 10th grade, and at first they were not too excited that mom and dad wanted to take them to this, as you can imagine. But on the drive home, both of them were just asking questions and kind of in awe of the reality of it. So great work with providing that. I thought it was really neat. Another thing that they had, I don't know if you'll have it next time, but they actually had Narcan they were handing out to people.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the cooperation with the health department, Lynn County Health Department. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to guarantee anything. I'm just trying to say it was really great training. And, when I got home, I asked my kids, and they actually said, "Yeah, Dad, we're glad you took us," which was, you don't always get that from teenagers, right? So it really drove home the idea that, hey, that was really worthwhile. So thank you very much.
Thank you
for doing that.
Don't move. Just to add a little bit, I think Jen and Curtis really are underselling how much work. I don't think we have 2 harder working officers in our department right now. And a lot of times I'll come down the hall and there'll be smiles because they made a breakthrough with a kid. A lot of that has to do with allowing our wellness dog, Bentley. If you haven't met Bentley, we can certainly bring him to a meeting. He opens all sorts of doors. So they've done excellent work. There's a lot of things we have prevented that I can't speak publicly about that I know the superintendent is aware of, but there's been some pretty serious incidents that they've been able to prevent, mostly because we've opened dialogue with parents and students. So I cannot underestimate their impact in schools. And again, I appreciate the partnership that we have. Additionally, on Wednesday night's event, I sit in a Tri-County Substance Abuse and Mental Health Coalition, Lincoln, Benton, and Lynn County, where we get hospital report outs on overdoses, as well as what we're seeing on the law enforcement side. And the hospitals are reporting 13, 14, 16-year-olds coming through the ERs with overdoses. It is coming. So as much as we can make parents aware on what to look for, the better. I know that GAPS has upped the game as far as having Narcan available. All of our staff carries Narcan, and if you can get it publicly available, I recommend that you carry it with you on your person because you just never know what you might come in contact with. So again, I want to applaud these guys. Now I get to do a really cool thing and invite a couple of our West Albany students up, Alana and Mercedes. And can I have the West Albany administrators come up too? I know they didn't want to, but I'm going to have them up. both come up here. All right. One of those very serious incidents that we have had to investigate occurred at West Albany High School. But we would not be here. We might have some very, very serious injuries to a student if it weren't for these two wonderful student leaders. On October 13, 2022, school resource officers investigated a serious assault that occurred at West Albany High School. The investigation revealed 3 female students conspired to lure a victim into the women's locker room for the purposes of an ambush-style attack. From all intents and purposes, administrators have seen the video. They have video. This was a beatdown of the student in the locker room. Once the victim student was in the locker room, one female began punching the victim multiple times. The victim student was knocked unconscious by multiple punches while the other students watched, cheered, and recorded the fight on their cell phones. While the fight was taking place, 2 female students walked into the locker room, realized the seriousness of the incident, and took immediate action. Mercedes Bengstrom, did I pronounce that right? Bengstrom, okay, was the first student to come into the locker room and told the female suspect to get off the victim. When she didn't, Mercedes physically pulled the suspect student off the victim, stopping the fight. While Mercedes was doing this, Alana Meeks, did I get that right? Okay, Alana Meeks came into the locker room and tended to the victim while also keeping the suspect from continuing the attack on the victim. Both rendered aid and stayed in the locker room until school staff could arrive and assist. It is because Mercedes and Alana's bravery and intervention and actions that prevented further injury. The investigation showed that there were many female students in the locker room at the time of the attack. Excuse me. Some witnesses described being frozen in shock at what they saw, but Mercedes and Alana displayed courage when faced with a horrific event and acted when their peers couldn't or wouldn't act. It is for these reasons that I am giving the Chiefs coin, which is a very special thing. Not everybody gets one of these, to Mercedes and Alana that deserve this coin. And I want to read you a little quote that is in our building. So we have for those of you who've been in our, sorry, that's when my voice decides to give out. We have a little quote up on our wall for our officers. And the quote is, "Bravery is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of fear." So congratulations to both of you. Does anybody from West Albany want to say something? Because I know this was quite impactful on staff.
So I'm going to try to not get emotional. I was the first staff member to come into the locker room, and the girl was pretty much unconscious. And so I just don't think you realize what an amazing impact you've had on our building, and how you kept someone safe when other people wouldn't. And I just thank you so much for being brave in that moment. So thank you.
Good job.
Ladies, you have done something that we really need in society today, is for people to step up and do the right thing when it's needed and not just step back and record it for social media. So congratulations. I am very honored to meet both of you.
Being one of the investigators on this, watching the video was shocking. I can't say in my 24 years of service that I've seen a fight like this, especially how it was put together and how it was orchestrated by other students to lure this girl into the locker room and then be proceeded to be beat up pretty bad. So, and the one thing that was noticeable in that video is not only what happened to the other girl, but what these two did to stop it. And when Mercedes told the girl to get off and she didn't, she physically pulled her off and made sure that she stayed away from her until staff could get there. So I mean, it was amazing, and we couldn't do this sooner because the case was still going through court. So that's been adjudicated now. So I wanted to make sure that these two got recognized for their bravery and what they did. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily's. Please being really nice. Got it.
Thank you very much. It's always good to hear positives. Go ahead, Brad.
Chief Harden, would it be possible to videotape the presentation on fentanyl and maybe post that video on the school website?
We'd love to. Some of the presenters currently work in narcotics investigations,
Okay.
and so they're keeping their identity on the downloads is key.
Fair enough. All right.
If there's a need, we'll do it again, and we'll say it every single day until we get the message through.
Well, I was hoping we could somehow, get the message to a broader audience, but I really appreciate what you're doing.
Totally. I would love to. So.
Okay. Understood.
It's some great training. I'd really, it's eye-opening to hear the numbers. Unfortunately, not in a good way. Thank you very much for that, Chief. Okay, next up is Memorial Middle School.
I'd like to introduce Memorial Middle School Principal, Mr. Ken Gilbert. I believe is our second longest serving principal in the district. Welcome, Ken.
All right.
In a tie.
Doesn't happen often. And he trimmed the beard. We're even now, Ken.
All righty. First, I would like to echo the comments made earlier about our local police department. I know they will be with us at Memorial tomorrow, where we practice a lockdown drill, which is, of course, unfortunate that that's the times we live in. But we really appreciate what they do and the feedback we'll get to help keep our students safe. So I wanted to echo the comments made earlier. Memorial Middle School. Our vision is to challenge and support every student through meaningful engagement and achieve academic excellence. Create responsible citizens who are prepared for high school. That is our job as middle school educators, to get them ready for AOS or West Albany or South Albany. We'll cultivate positive relationships and utilize high leverage strategies to engage all of our students to learn and grow during their time at Memorial. And so that's our vision and our mission and what we try to achieve each year, obviously making adjustments as we go along with feedback. Some quick facts. Our enrollment this year is about 525. It's up about 35 students from last year. Have approximately 21 and a half classroom teachers, a couple counselors, some special education staff, half-time ELD, dean of students, half-time librarian, and a literacy specialist. Some of the programs we have are our social learning center. That's students who struggle with communication skills. Our functional skills classroom, those are often students who have intellectual disabilities, an alternative education program, ELD program, and a TAG advisory program. Approximately 49% of our students are on free and reduced lunch, and 21% special education, 2% of our students are English language learners. Some of our points of pride are relationships with students who have disabilities. That is a connection that has been strong at Memorial for several years and continues to be. Student growth on our benchmark screeners, which I'll share in a few minutes here. Our clubs, we have Oregon Battle of the Books, a garden club, which is very strong. Dungeons and Dragons, some of you may remember that from your earlier days. Safe Space, Robotics, Pokemon, Chess Club, who competed this past Saturday at a state tournament. We have a poetry club that's not listed in here, and some other things that I forgot to put in. Have a strong band program with help from our elementary schools. We're able to bring in 5th graders at the beginning of the day. And we do a lot of recruitment with our 5th grade schools. They're actually coming in a few weeks to visit, actually, I think at West Albany again, where our band will put on a little mini concert for them and then spend a few hours at Memorial learning about middle school and just kind of helping with that transition. We have Drama, who has put on 2 performances just recently, one right before spring break, which was well done, and they're currently doing Anne of Green Gable, our CTE programs, and we just received, not too long ago, another garden grant for about $55,000. And it's connected with the the continuing transition program of West Albany. I might not be saying that quite right, but they are part of that garden grant and come over to Memorial and work in our garden as well as our own kids, which is really cool. Some celebrations. So this is our benchmark data from the fall screener in reading. In math, to our winter screener, the percentage of students in low risk category. So the higher the number, the better, because that means they're in the low risk category. Our 6th grade reading is the one area that went down from 77 to 70. But the other 5 areas, 6th grade math went up, and then 7th, 8th grade reading in math both went up significantly, and we certainly hope to see our spring data show the same thing, that they go up even more. And we attribute that to the addition of interventions at the middle schools, the MTSS systems, which are moving along and only going to get better since we're still pretty early in the inclusion of them. The behavior celebration is the percentage of students in our low risk category. This was the winter screening, which is done by the teachers. So advisory teachers rate their kids on what's called DESA, and the teachers rated that only 14% of our students, I shouldn't say only, it's still more than we want, but 14% of our students had additional need for instruction when it comes to SEL. The DESA scale includes all 7 domains of the CASEL standards as well as a few others, and it's all around social emotional learning. Typical 52%, and as a strength for 34% of our kids. I can say that earlier in the year, or certainly last year, that need for instruction would have been much, much higher. So have improvement going on in that area, at least according to our teachers. Challenges and also celebrations. The first one's actually celebration, listening to our staff, listening to Board Chair Morris last year talked about cell phones at the schools and how they are a problem, and that is correct. We have been pretty strict with our cell phone and hoodie policy this year, and it's way, way, way better. We still have some kids, of course, that want to push the issue, but it's incredibly better. I'd say a specific behavior that is concerning for me as a educator is just kids being kind to each other. Very, very mean. Middle school is known for being mean for decades and decades, but it seems to be a little extra mean coming back from the pandemic. And language, both racial, homophobic, as well as foul language, is a pretty big concern. Academics, I think our teachers would tell you that the rigor and scaffolding are a challenge. Trying to get higher levels of thinking with our students, and then having the scaffolding so all kids can enter that learning at the point that they're at is difficult. And attendance is also a difficult thing. And I think someone said earlier, social emotional well-being, mental health, especially for middle school students, not only in Albany, but around our state and around our country, is a serious concern. We're looking forward to the focus that we have on our district goals, our school goals, our MTSS systems, and outcomes all being aligned and supporting the district's strategic plan. That is work that Andy has led us through with the strategic plan. And at the middle level, Stafford has been leading us through and getting our school goals to be in alignment with the strategic plan. The MTSS results, we've had some good results in the academics for the benchmark screeners, but we're looking forward to better outcomes in our behavior and attendance as we implement more MTSS systems in those areas. One that we're really excited about, or at least some of us are, is the recently expanded alternative education program that increased at semester and will increase again, I believe, for next year, which is awesome. Our QTEL training coming up this summer. We have some staff going to that from Memorial and connecting that with AVID, and of course our work and the district's work on equity and how we can make outcomes at Memorial better, specifically for our Latino students who have not performed very well in our state assessments. And so that's an area we need to concentrate on. Our students say they really like Mrs. Smith and home ec. That was actually by Paige Morse, an 8th grader. Travis Warner, 7th grade. He really likes his teachers. They're nice and helpful. He also likes that our library is always open at lunch so he can play board games with his friends and hang out. And I don't know what happened to our 6th grade one, and I don't remember what it said, but 6th graders always have something to say. So use your imagination on that one. And questions?
Anyone?
Yeah, on MTSS and the area of social emotional learning. So what kind of things, so the ones that fall into the lower zone, I guess, the lower, more concerning zone, what do you do? What kind of interventions happen? I've been trying to think also, of how we throw these acronyms around. I mean, to me, MTSS is just a way of assessing and trying to direct resources to kids who fall in the lower. I mean, that's the main thing. The first zone is like almost every kid.
Yes.
But then there are the second and third level that you're trying to focus resources on. But I'm just curious, what do you do for a child that scores low in the social emotional learning category?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. This year, so it's a phase in using DESA. This year, our goal has been our counselors have looked at this data as well as I have, and getting them into groups either through Ophelia's place or through the juvenile department that comes in. I'm missing one. And then, of course, the most serious cases, hooking them up with Lynn County Mental Health or the telephone one. I can't think of what it's called right now. And so that's currently what we're doing.
And all of this, we separate it out. We talk about MTS and behavior and social emotional learning, and then but it's all related to academics. I don't think you can separate. I mean, why are you doing that? You're doing that so they can learn better. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think. I don't think. Nothing wrong with what you said. You mean we hear from many principals. I just want to emphasize that it's absolutely part of learning.
Yes, yeah, a dysregulated student
Yeah.
will not learn in the classroom.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do we fix attendance?
How do we
do
fix
this?
attendance?
All right, here's a golden question. How do we fix attendance?
Wow. If I knew that, I'd be making a lot of money. I still think it comes down to trying to build the relationships with kids, of course, but finding a way to get them to believe school is important and that they're wanted. Even if they don't yet, because they're middle schoolers, even if they don't yet understand how important education is, just getting them to feel like they are wanted, they will show up. And that's easy to say, and we certainly try to do it, but I can definitely say post-pandemic, it's been more of a struggle.
And then how do we make outcomes better? I saw it on your looking forward to how to make outcomes at Memorial better for Latino students.
Mm-hmm. So we are receiving a little bit of money from, I don't know where from, state, I think. But one of the things we are looking at, we're looking at lots of things, everything from how are students scheduled, what classes do they have access to, and a big one that I'm pretty excited about is an instructional coach that we're looking at for next year to come in, as well as the QTEL training this summer, which is QTEL main focus or start or whatever was around English language learners. So getting more people trained in that and then doing training with the staff back at the building.
You're not going to learn the curriculum if you can't speak the language or even know the heritage, if you can't talk the talk. Yeah. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Roger, you have anything?
Just thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. You bet.
Okay. Ken, as you can probably imagine, I got a couple.
I would expect.
Okay. One of them would been, I know you and I have talked about grading, and that you had a teacher that was looking into that. If memory serves, it's Ketter.
That's correct.
Could you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure. So our teacher did a little experiment on a traditional system. Traditional meaning if a student didn't do something, an assignment or whatever it may be, they would receive a 0 instead of the 50%. She, of course, communicated home with parents, and then the grade report that went out was still based off of district policy, but wanted to do a little comparison to see what kind of effect, if any, the grades are having in terms of calculations. What we found is for our C students and above, there was no difference. Those students are typically doing their work already, so it made no difference in their letter grade that they would receive. A very small percentage jumped into the D range that would have received an F in a traditional grading. But the biggest part, there was no difference shown in that small sample of the traditional system versus what we're using right now at the middle schools.
So one of the big things that a lot of people don't understand is the way we do grades in middle school is very different. And it's very, very different from how we do grades in high school, which when I initially came back home a little over 10 years ago, I was working with the freshmen quite a bit at West, and it was very enlightening to me to see how poorly they were doing grade-wise. And I would argue that a lot of that was they were used to the system in middle school that allowed them to get 50% for not handing in an assignment or not taking a test. And our, Jessica Smith, who I think she's left, but she's the freshman VP at West. Our freshmen hurt. They come into the schools just like at South. They don't understand the new system. They're used to not really getting in trouble for turning something in late, or not necessarily getting graded down when they don't do something, and then they get to the high school and all of a sudden they get 0 for it. And so there's quite the learning curve there. And one of the things we've discussed is how can we better prepare them from high school. And it's probably going to end up to be some kind of step up program from what it is now. But thank you for that, Ken. Another question I'd have for you is, I know you implemented Saturday school.
Correct.
Okay, talk to me about that. I know what I've heard. I've heard first off, we want none of our kids to have to go to Saturday school, right? We want them all to learn and not have to do that, right? Unfortunately, we all have kids, me included, that might not learn their lesson from, getting something taken away, and it has to go to the next level. What was your experience with that?
So we are using it mainly for students who have excessive tardies and skipping. So trying to capture back time that they didn't do when they were supposed to, and it's been okay. I mean, the students that come have done a pretty good job working while they're there, but that's in large part due to our supervisors being equipped with the technology to help them with that, which from previous, years ago when we had Saturday school, it was very much a show up, supposed to do work or just sit there quiet or whatever. But it was hard for the supervisors to get kids to do that. Now with the availability of things like Lexia and iReady, we can put them on a math program or a reading program if they choose not to bring their other schoolwork and their learning. So
Sure.
that's been nice.
And one of the things you said there was if they choose to come. Have you found a way to motivate them to come?
No. I mean, no, some show, some don't. And we, of course, talk to parents, all that. Typically we'll have them there, and then some don't show.
Right. Okay. The other thing I'd like to talk to, and this is like you said, because I have a daughter who goes to your school, and it's unfortunate, but the new thing that kids do is they like to video everything, right?
Mhm.
And if they know something, and then if they video it, what do they like to do it? I mean, I'm certainly not good at all the things on here, but they like to put it on Snapchat or Instagram and things like that. I know you've had some instances with that. Hopefully you feel like you have the tools to correct that behavior so that's not happening.
Yeah. Most recent incident was unfortunately a altercation at school, physical altercation. There were a couple of kids who decided to pull out their phones, video it, and that's where we can't have that to have a safe environment, and the harassment that goes to the victim or victims. It's not fair, not okay, and we got great support by the parents of the ones who did the videoing, so we're very happy about that.
Okay.
And I would just want to add, that is not a Memorial Middle School issue. We have
No.
that occurring at many different schools. That's a phenomenon of the cell phone age.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ken.
Okay. Next up, Central Tequina.
I'd like to introduce Central Tequina Principal Julia Bradley.
So click stop sharing. There, stop share right there.
Oh, right there.
Right there in red.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let me get set up here really quickly. Slideshow. Okay. All right. My name's Julia Bradley. I am the principal at Central in Tequina. Thank you for having me. Hopefully you won't hammer me as much as you did the previous principal, but I do have the same kids that go there. So we do deal with a lot of the same things. We also have had kids take videos and put on Snapchat, even with their Apple Watches. So even all of that is still happening at the younger age as well. Just some quick facts about my schools. We have 44 staff, 265 students. We have 146 male, 110 female. We have 0 English language learners. We have 2.3% TAG students. And combined, I put, it's a lot easier when I have 2 schools, I just add it and divide it by 2 so then I can find the average. We are at 41.5% of our students that receive free and reduced lunch. We have 12.50 Hispanic, 1.86 American Indian, 0.78 Asian, 0.78 Black, 0.78 Pacific Islander, 81.4% white, and then multiple races of 12.45%. All right, our vision, we came up with it together as a staff. Tequina and Central Elementary Schools will have a safe, positive, and caring environment where staff will support all students to become successful learners. Our mission is that we believe our purpose is to ensure lifelong learning for all students to become positive contributors to their community. Our approach, we have a strong focus on parent engagement. We like to work closely with our parents within collaboration. We provide multiple opportunities for parents to come into the building. We also started something new this year with home visits. We are partnering with LBL of how to do home visits successfully. That's where we make goal settings with our students. We've done a few this year and it's been a great outcome. We also focus a lot on trauma-informed care. We do have a lot of students with trauma, so our number one key focus is focusing on relationships and building that with our students and with our parents. That is absolutely key with our students at our school. We've also put in zones of regulation just to really help with our behavior. Our PBIS, that's the Positive Behavior Intervention Support System. And that's really something that we focus on, of just trying to reward students all the time for the positive behavior that we see. And also we have QTEL, which is just really enhancing academic communication between our students. Our first goal that we have is in alignment with a strategic plan, equitable outcomes and systems for all students. Our first one is to increase the percentage of students meeting or exceeding in the area of reading. This is all based upon the Acadian screener that we give to all students. That's the universal screener. Looking at our data, we have about a good chunk of green, but we do have a lot of students in the red. However, our success is that we have decreased the students in the red zone by 5%, and that's just using strategic interventions. We also have a reading specialist this year, and we meet all the time for our 100% meetings, our 20% meetings to figure out which students need the interventions, which interventions match the need, and we're seeing that that is definitely improving our scores. Our second one, we also have underneath the equitable outcomes, this is based for our Easy CBM math composite scores. Our school also adopted iReady, and so we also use iReady as a second source of scoring. And you can see again, our data is very similar. And again, we decrease students in the red zone by 5%. And in addition, we increase students in the green zone by 3%. And that's just using our collaborative core planning. We have implemented data teams within, it's our PLCs within our schools. And so teachers are collaborating weekly and they're really looking at their core instruction. What can they do to really enhance the students in the green? So we're not just trying to focus on the kids in the red. We really want to make sure that our green zone is still strong. And it's proving to work, so that's great. Our last one is our social emotional mental support. This is based on our Swiss data. Anytime you get school referrals, if there's anything that happens, whether it's major or minor, we do have to put it into a system. So this is looking at our data, but we did also take the DESA just as the previous principal was saying. So if you're looking at that, we do have a large chunk of students in the green. Again, this is combined both schools, but we did decrease students in the red zone by 5%. I work very closely with FACT. We have Sarah Segar, who I just want to give a shout out to her. She is fantastic. She works with FACT, and she connects us with our Lynn County mental health and lots of supports that we need, any type of situation. I go straight to her, and she connects us with the community and what their supports are. And then we also have zones of regulation, like I said earlier, and that is our SEL, and we embed that within our classroom all of the time. In addition, I have a dean of students who is fabulous. She provides small group supports. And then we also have district staff who come in from the district behavior team, and they provide small group supports as well. We don't have a counselor this year. We lost our counselor. She had to move to California. We were unable to hire somebody that was equipped for what we needed, but we do have someone coming next year, which we're very excited for. And it's desperately needed because I can't be a principal of 2 schools and a counselor at the same time. It's a lot. Points of pride, very excited. We have our dance club, and there's a picture of some kids dancing. They meet every Tuesday after school. We have a strong leadership team. The kids get very excited about it. They wait all year for that to come up in their 5th grade year. They get to do some special things in our building. Our PE teacher does the running club, and the kids absolutely love that. We buy the whole program. They have a little scanner, so every time they run around, they get to scan it. They get some prizes at the end. It's great for our students. A lot of our kids don't have the opportunity to play, group sports after school, and so this is a way to let them feel successful of something that they can't do. We don't have a music teacher this year, but we did create a music committee, and it was actually a lot of fun. So we did a concert this year. Parents got to come in and see their kids sing, and it was fun. Just some teachers and I did it together, and we picked out some songs that were all focused on character education. And so that way it was connected to their learning, and parents were very grateful to see their kids sing again. We also have reading buddies where a bus takes our central kids to Tahkeena. That was one thing that I really didn't like, was there was this big separation between our 2 schools. So how could we combine them? So we just have a bus that picks up our central kids and loads them on over. And we're even going to do field day together and just use our transportation opportunities to do so. And we are very lucky to have, of course, Mr. Michael Thompson. We had the most wonderful PTA, and we still do at my school. If I didn't have the PTA, I would not have any subs, nor would I have anybody that could come in and support us when we need it. So I have hired 3 parents, and 1 parent is our full-time sub that does everything. And I would not have anybody else if I did not have our PTA. So they are amazing. More points of pride, of course, our parent involvement. The PTA, they do great events every single month, and we have great attendance as they come in. Also, our home visits. We also do lots of school activities that are really fun, and we always want to feed the families as they come in. Again, the parent-teacher goal setting, parent education. We weren't able to do as much of that this year because I did lose my counselor, but that is our plan to move forward. And our new playground, which is a huge source of pride, at least for me. Challenges, very similar to Memorial. Our mental health. Sometimes I'm extremely overwhelmed by the needs of our kids. It can be very disheartening to know that there's so many needs that it's very difficult to meet every single kid. And then when you talk to their families and you find out what they're dealing with, that makes it just even harder. So the mental health is really a big challenge, and just the wait for counseling is horrific. And I know that that's nothing you guys could fix, but it's just a reality, and that's what we're dealing with. The behavior. We try very hard to get it under control, but boy, oh boy, it's very similar to what he was saying. The language and just being mean. And the word bullying is so overused right now that I don't even know where to go. So I have to keep telling him there's a difference between kids being mean and bullying, and showing them a visual. And even to parents, we just get lots of phone calls of so-and-so is being bullied. Well, let's talk about that. 9 times out of 10, it's just kids being mean. There's a very specific difference in that. Our kinder class sizes with our kids coming in, it's not very high. We only have like 23, but for kids that are really struggling, we really need like 2 people in there if we're going to have that amount of kids, or if we could just lower that and have less. But I'm going to try and put in as many staff as I possibly can, because it's almost humanly impossible for a kinder teacher to try and deal with kiddos with the emotional support that they're needing. Also just limited staff for Title I schools. We do have some high needs, and so it would be great to have some more staffing for that. Also just 2 different buildings with shared staff. It's half the support daily. So my dean and I, we swap schools at the same time. And so then we're always having to try and catch up and say, what happened at your school today? Okay, I'll take that when I go there. And then the counselor would be shared, even though we don't have one right now. But just trying to share the staff does make it difficult. And then also just the limited subs, and then just our facility challenges that you guys are very well aware of. But I do want to thank you that things have been getting done at Central, and I really do appreciate that. Looking forward, since we have been able to decrease students in the red zone, our focus now is to really strengthen our core instruction, like I've said. I would also like to fine tune the strategic interventions that I've talked about. We're going to fill that counselor position, which I will be just so grateful. We will continue with professional development and deepen our parent education. Our students say, the playground is amazing. That was from Sam. He was super excited. Takina has the best principal. I had to add that part in there. Teachers and friends. That's from Paisley. My favorite thing about Takina is math and recess from Chris. I love having lunch with the principal. I think she said that because we had eaten together that day. And the best thing about Central are the teachers from Jack. Sarah says, I love how the staff are so kind to the students. And Maggie says, the staff are so kind and love us. I added my own because I noticed some people don't have what our parents say, but because parents are so important to us, I felt this needed to be said. So our parents say the Central Takina staff have phenomenal commitment to not only the academic success and growth in their students, but they also go above and beyond to meet their individual needs, their complex lives outside of school, and how to best meet them where they are. And that's from Jill Nelson. And another parent who's also a staff, I love having my daughter attend CENTAC. The staff go above and beyond to make sure that every single student gets what they need. The diversity of students and their needs are embraced by staff, and that is such a great example for all the students who attend CENTAC. Every student and parent are greeted each morning, often multiple times, and usually by name. I feel all the staff know and care about each student and family. There's a fantastic community feeling, and I feel so fortunate that my daughter has been able to experience K-5 here. And that is Jenny Stoltz Johnson. And then our staff say, it was kind of fun for me to do this actually, so thanks for having this on the slide, because I kept finding this common denominator was we are a family. So our Dean of Students said, yes, we are a family. Myra, our office manager, said all the staff are nice, have positive attitudes, and it's a great place to work. Teresa is a communications SEA. Staff care about each other as a team, and all of us deeply care about each and every student. Nikki says the staff is cooperative and willing to help. Our custodian said, everyone knows everyone and we all get along. It's a positive community. We love the kids and we are a happy staff where everyone is always there to help. And that was from Sophia. And that was it. Thank you. Questions?
Just thank you for all that you do. It's beyond challenging and difficult, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just echo what you said. In all the difficulties of Central in particular, the staff and the parents go above and beyond, and I just thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's amazing what this, like you've said, and it's true. Seeing it is the staff and the parents are amazing, and so that makes it work.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Julia.
Anything else?
Thank
you
you.
guys.
Get grilled.
Thank you.
Okay, we're doing H5 school report at Tangent Elementary next time on April 24th. Next up is consent agenda, personnel licensed.
I move to approve personnel license as presented.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, personnel classified.
I move to approve personnel classified as presented.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, I3 minutes, regular board meeting 3/13/23.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve minutes in the regular board meeting 3/13/23 as presented.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, old business. Next up is K reports, special programs.
Coming up will be the Greater Albany Special Education Director, Krista McGuire, for her second presentation of the year, I believe.
All right, thank you for having me. And yes, I was here earlier in the year presenting on our restraint and seclusion. And so this time I'm just giving a general overview of special programs within Greater Albany School District. So we can go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. And so some quick facts within special education. We have 1,313 students identified for special education within the district. We have 31 certified resource teachers. We have 171 classified assistants that work within special programs. 2 community transition program teachers. That was the word earlier today that I think Ken was trying to find, community transition. We have 21 specialized classroom teachers, 15 speech language pathologists, 3 autism consultants, a little more than 4.5 school support specialists, and 1 IEP specialist, about 3.5 FTE for school psychologists, and 1 social worker. And so we are a big department. Go ahead. So our vision is that all students are unified to, all staff are unified to bring students with and without disabilities together in equal partnerships to build a culture of acceptance and belonging. All staff will ensure that students are able to work collaboratively and are college, career, and community ready. With high expectations, unimpeded by bias or discrimination, all students will access the general education curriculum and environment where they will develop agency and voice. And our mission of the Special Programs Department is to positively impact the quality of life of students with disabilities and their families by educating, affirming, and inspiring each student in an equity-embedded school system. One of the cornerstones of special education is least restrictive environment. And so every student has a right to receive a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment for that student. And so I've included the data over the last 3 years that shows the percentage of students and where they are receiving their special education services. And so what I would like to highlight on this slide is that we have seen a small increase over the last 3 years in the number of students that are in the regular education classroom for the majority of their day, which is really what our goal is to be able to support students effectively within the general education setting. And so we've increased from 73.87% 3 years ago to a little over 76.5%. And so we would still like to see that number increasing, but that's a positive trend. And similarly, the number of students who are outside of the general ed for the majority of their day, that's the less than 40% of the day in regular ed, we've seen a slight decrease in over the 3 years from 9% to about 7% of students who spend very little time within the general education setting. And this just shows that same slide in graph form. And so you can see most of the students are in their general education setting for most of the day, and that is increasing, which is good. There are, within the state of Oregon, there are 12 eligibility categories that students qualify for special education. And so this shows our percentage of students in each of those categories over the last 3 years. And so the majority of students within our district qualify in 4 areas. They qualify for either having a specific learning disability, and that would be in reading, writing, or math, or having a speech language impairment, an other health impairment, which is typically for students who may have a diagnosis of ADHD or anxiety that impacts their access to education, and then autism spectrum. we have seen a slight decrease over the 3 years in students qualifying for specific learning disability, which I think is a factor of our increased emphasis on RTI, our response to intervention, and our multi-tiered system of supports. And so we're seeing that with those early interventions, more students are responding to those. When we have high quality core instruction and targeted interventions, we're able to prevent students from qualifying in the area of specific learning disability. And so we have seen a small decrease from 28% 3 years ago to 26%. Similarly with speech language, we've seen a small decrease there. We have seen an increase in students qualifying for autism spectrum, and I would say specifically coming out of the pandemic, that has been an area that we've received a lot of parent requests for evaluation, just seeing students with pretty significantly impacted social skills and that social communication. And the other area that we have seen an increase, which is to be expected, is developmental delay. Developmental delay is only students can only qualify for developmental delay up through age of 10. By the time they turn 10, we either have to exit them from special education or qualify them in a different area. And it's basically kind of that catch-all for students who maybe have some global delays at a young age, but we're not able to pinpoint what it is. May qualify for a developmental delay. And it was about 4 years ago, I think, in the state of Oregon, that expanded to be a school-aged eligibility. It used to be in the state of Oregon that students had to be exited from that by the time they entered kindergarten. And so about 4 years ago, it expanded to be up through age 10. And so it obviously took a little bit of time because kids had been exited from that. And so we're seeing a rise in that, but that's just because kids are being identified in early intervention and early childhood special education and are able to continue to have that disability category. All right. This shows our eligibility for special education by race and ethnicity. And so the orange is the special education population within the district, and that purple blue is the district as a whole. And so you can see there that obviously when you're looking at this type of data, you're looking to see that it's pretty similar. We don't want to see a group being overly identified for special education. And so we're a little under-identified in our Caucasian population and a little slightly over-identified in Hispanic and multiple ethnicities. The state, we do have to submit this data, and actually this comes back to us. This is our specific data that we reported to the state, and they will flag us for disproportionality if any one of these categories gets too out of whack. And so we have not been flagged for disproportionality in our area of eligibility by race or ethnicity I think for quite some time, if ever. So we're doing pretty good there. All right, and so this is our special education report card data. This is from 2020-21. I actually just late last week it's always like 2 years data that's 2 years old. I got the more recent data, I think, on Friday, and I had already submitted this for the board packet. And so this is data from 2020-2021, looking specifically at special education outcomes. Our graduation rate for students in special education is 85%. Our dropout rate is 6%. So definitely still some room to improve there. It is lower than our school-wide population as a whole. And so obviously we know that we really need to target our outcomes for our students in special education. Where it gets a little more concerning even then is looking at students on IEPs who are going on to higher education. 14%. Higher education or employed is a little bit better at 54%. And so we're seeing that a lot of students are maybe not going to college and are going directly into the job market, but that's still just a little over half of our students are either gainfully employed or in higher education. And then if you add or some sort of post-secondary training, it increases to just under 61%. So we're below Oregon targets in those areas. So that's an area that we want to continue to focus on. One area that we were flagged for disproportionality from data from 2 years ago is the number of students in special education who have been suspended or expelled, suspended for more than 10 days or expelled. And so our students on IEPs have a lot higher chance of being suspended or expelled than our students not on IEPs. And so really trying to work on, again, those other preventative measures, having appropriate behavior plans, implementing PBIS and other things to try and bring that number down. Our points of pride, really our devoted staff is obviously we have a lot of staff and we have a lot of student needs, and we wouldn't be able to do this without having staff that truly care about kids and wanting the best outcomes for kids. Right now, we're really focused on inclusion in outdoor school. We made a push this year to really meaningfully include all students with disabilities in a full outdoor school experience, if that's what the families choose. And so historically, we've had a lot of students that only do day trips. And so really working with, we partnered with our outdoor school folks and our schools and our staff to really look at what does it take to support students and being able to have the full experience of going up, staying overnight, participating in all of the things. And so that's going to be happening here soon. Horses of Hope, our special programs coordinator, Tina Gearhart, was able to get a grant this year to have our students at Fairmount in the Behavior Intervention Center, and then also some of our other programs go every Friday to do Horses of Hope, which is very therapeutic. There's a picture there of one of our young guys just feeling so empowered and comfortable on a large animal. Our youth transitions program, again, it becomes increasingly important when we're looking at the outcomes that we looked at on the previous screen, is really that support in trying to gain either employment or admission to college. And so we have 2 YTP specialists, 1 at each high school. We just submitted our grant for this biennium and received that to be able to fund that program for the next 2 years. Supportive families. We have a lot of very supportive families within Greater Albany School District. And so I was at an IEP meeting this afternoon before coming over here, and just the ability to work collaboratively with parents is really what makes the best outcomes for students. Our unified sports at the high school levels is a great opportunity that our schools really rally around our unified players and show them so much appreciation and love and support, and thankful to the staff that continue to support in that as well. I know on several of our board reports from the schools, school moves has been mentioned by multiple schools as being something that they're implementing. And so that's provided, the training for that is provided. One of our autism consultants within the district is a school moves train the trainer. And so she goes out and does training for schools, and some of our schools have been implementing that school-wide, and we're seeing really good results with really just having that planned and coordinated opportunity to increase, motor movement opportunities during the school day and those brain breaks and things like that. Our MANT, we're pretty much fully implemented with MANT, which is our restraint and de-escalation training. And so we had shifted over. This is our 2nd year of using MANT from CPI. So last year was kind of a crossover year where we had both. We have trained trainers for MANT, and they're continually doing new trainings, refresher trainings. They're happy to go out and meet with teams, and they do that regularly when they just need, because these are skills that you need to be able to practice ongoing to be able to utilize them. And so they're always available to just go out and either problem solve through or practice and do all of those. And then we have a regional student collaboration with several of the other schools in the region to primarily with our students in our foundational skills classrooms to be able to do field trips and events at different school locations throughout the year. Just an opportunity to get students together, and they really look forward to that. Our challenges continues to be hiring is one of our biggest challenges. Hiring certified special education teachers, speech language pathologists, school psychologists. We're seeing fewer and fewer people going into this field, and an increasing need in these areas. And then also our classified staff that help support. So our PCAs and SEAs, at the time I did this report, we had 15 current vacancies for classified. I'm anticipating upwards of 14 certified special ed teacher vacancies for next year. So if you know anyone who's looking for a job, send them our way. Professional development, again, as we encounter staff shortages, and oftentimes we're hiring teachers that aren't fully through a program or aren't fully trained. And so the need to be able to do on-the-job training becomes even more important to support inexperienced staff. And then time for collaboration is always a challenge. That's collaboration between special ed teachers and general ed teachers, collaboration with specialists, with support staff. And so those are our primary challenges. And then looking forward, we are really wanting to engage in a deep examination of how we support students receiving special education services throughout the district, with an emphasis on really looking at inclusive practices and outcomes. And so what we're wanting to do is create a committee that will analyze practices within gaps, including looking at the outcomes and also looking at research and best practices in other districts, to create recommendations regarding inclusive educational supports for students. And so we're wanting to have representation from our teachers, our classified administration, general ed folks, families, and other agencies that help provide support and services. And through gathering all of the stakeholder input, really looking at doing site visits in other places, and then providing recommendations for ongoing professional development to increase capacity for inclusive practices. And that is what I have. Do you have any questions? And I heard if I preface it by saying, please don't grill me like you did Mr. Gilbert.
I love the horse thing. Fantastic that y'all are doing it. It really does. I've seen it make a difference with kids. Hats off to you.
Thanks.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thanks.
Questions?
Not really a question, but tonight I've heard from the student resource officers and the principals of both schools, and now the director of special programs alluding to referencing working with or collaborating with parents. And not a question, I just want to highlight that. It's very much part of what you do in all those areas. And so thank you.
Particularly within special education, because we have an IEP team that makes decisions for everything to do with a student.
Yeah.
And so parents are an integral part of that team. And anytime we're looking at behavior plans or anything like that, we are meeting with parents or getting input from parents. So yes, there's a heavy aspect of parent involvement within the work that we do.
My daughter has an IEP, and so I've experienced that from actually pre-kindergarten till now, and it's outstanding. It's great, the time and commitment that the whole team puts in.
The data on the suspended or expelled, that's from 2021 or 21-22?
That is from 2021.
Okay, so it's little old data, but the most recent thing we have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. all of the special education data, particularly from the state, is always 2 years,
Okay. Thank
which
you.
makes it hard to really make timely decisions.
Yes. Yes, it would.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. I saw those numbers when I read it this weekend, and it generated some questions, right? So I called some people and said, and really what I heard, and I would look for your opinion, is the idea that numbers are low, and if anything, the shocking thing was how few non-IDEA students had issues. And obviously that that changes the ratio quite a bit if that number is low. But so this data is a couple years old.
And this
Thank
would
you.
have been during COVID data as well, which obviously we saw a lot fewer suspensions.
Kids
and
weren't even in
expulsions.
schools, right? So yeah. Okay.
The other thing, Pete, a manifestation determination prior to an expulsion occurs by law, and kids cannot be expelled for something that is a manifestation or directly related to their disability. Right. But it still forces us to look deeply at this.
Sure. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Good job, Krista.
Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back at 7:45. Get everybody back and let's get started. I'll give it about a minute before we gavel in.
It was okay. She goes, hey, I've got some teachers that have come to present. And I said, show them to me. So she showed them to me. Yeah. That's all right. And I told her.
Okay, let's call the meeting back to order. Next up is the financial report.
Good evening. I have handed out to you the financial document that I've been using to track our expenditures for you. And it's updated with actuals through March. And you can see the beginning fund balance is 15 million. And when you get to the bottom, it's also projected to end around 15 million. So that tells me that we are on track. Our expenditures are within our budget, and that's a good thing. There are a couple changes that I have made since I last presented to you. I've learned that in our transportation, when we present our transportation report to ODE, we're paid for that through basic school support, but 700,000 of that goes back into the bus lease fund. So I subtracted that. If you look at the revenue under June, that 700,000 is subtracted from basic school support to support our bus lease program. And then also just one line down, I subtracted 200,000 that I believe will be our May adjustment. And so with those changes, we still end at the 15 million. And if we look at expenditures by object, we really are on track within the budget, except for our 300 purchase services. We're going to go over by 134%. And that's just really a difference in contracts and operations that we have that were not included in the budget. One of them, of course, is our contracted substitutes. They're no longer a salary expense, they're a contracted service, and that's about $250,000 a month. So those are the only changes that I have on that report. Do you have questions about this report?
Mr. Chairman, I do. And thank you for the data and the numbers. I guess the timber revenue versus what was budgeted, is that number ultimately equalized or?
No, that number is always a guess.
No.
It does come before the equalization of the per student. Yes, it's an input there.
So
the state timber does, the forest timber does not.
So I guess the better question is, do state forest practices impact our bottom line directly and getting less than we had planned? Some choices of a state agency that are many times are philosophical and have a certain political bent, if you will.
So
is that costing us money in the classroom?
Try that, Jane.
It's part of the equalization. You know, as we receive less taxes, we will receive more basic school support. Okay. But as a state overall, receiving less state timber definitely impacts education.
So it affects the state system globally, but doesn't isolate us.
Yes.
Thank you. And so you have beginning balance fund at 15 million. We had budgeted 11.4, and so there's an adjustment there. And so generally it looks, for lack of a better term, that we for this school year are cash flow neutral, and we're just carrying over that beginning balance.
Yes.
Okay.
That we plan to carry forward the beginning balance to help us through the next biennium. And that would lead me right into that next document. I just wanted to talk briefly about our budget. And when I look at the governor's budget at 9.9, I didn't give you a copy, Roger, but it was part of the board packet. I see you looking. we would receive about 122 million. And when I look at our base model expenditures, that is just taking current FTE, current expenses, contracts, rolling them forward. We have a 1,000,007 left. And it will take more than that to build our budget next year. And so as we go through the budget process, we are using a team approach. I believe many brains are better than just one. This week, we started meeting with every principal and every director. We're going over budgets, taking input, and establishing priorities so that we can determine how the budget will best meet the school's goals and priorities and what fits and what doesn't.
And then the 5 of us are next before a budget meeting, right?
Before a budget meeting?
Priorities and goals. Yeah.
Say that again.
So we don't make any changes during budget meetings, but if we have opportunity to meet with you before to talk about priorities and goals.
Individual or collective? As individuals?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a budget process. If we don't make any changes, why? How many days are we scheduling?
Well, I'm just saying, we all have a lot of plans for the budget. In my 4 years on the budget committee, we've made one change to the fuel of the school buses.
Well, this isn't that budget committee. It's all during a budget process. I would think all expenditures are fair game, and the most reasonable expenditures agreed on by a majority of those members is what the budget will be. And
So a part of the budget message will definitely be going over the priorities and the decisions that were made so that there will be input as to agreement or disagreement with those priorities.
Right, and that's why a budget committee exists, to be a check and additional input on behalf of the citizens and the taxpayers of this district. I do have a question for you on your. Did you? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, like I said, it would be nice to know some of the development before it gets to our table as a full budget committee, where it's a rubber stamp for 99% of it.
Well, you can. I'm not rubber stamping anything.
Me either.
Well, we weren't allowed to make changes the first 2 years. The first 2 years, we were not allowed to couldn't even ask questions for a lot of it. So.
Well,
you always can.
I think you could.
Go ahead, Mr.
I think you could have. You were just convinced otherwise. Maybe I don't know. I wasn't there.
Censored for it. Yeah.
So the assumption for increase to the labor cost going into that number here at the bottom. Did you already say what that was and I missed that?
We're still working on that.
Well, but how can you get to that number at the bottom?
That base number does not include COLAs and steps.
So that base number is at current wage.
Yes.
That's not going to work.
Right.
Jane, first off, thank you for all the work you're doing here. Are you feeling more and more convinced that you understand where we're at?
Yes, I've learned a lot. I have lots to learn. But the meetings with the directors and principals we met with middle schools today, very positive, very informative. I think our process will be good.
That's really good to hear.
I want to recognize in particular Mr. Stafford Boyd in the back and Sue Luthra for their part in this process, along with Heather. But I think Stafford's just been excellent in terms of his thinking and process thinking in terms of this, because it's kind of a new thing for the principals themselves to go through as well.
Okay.
So,
and that's how you've done it in the past, right? That's why
yeah, I just think that, it's a bigger district and there's steps I think that we're having to take into consideration, and also just a lack of having people having experienced that.
Right.
I think last year it was mostly kind of is it a status quo that will work for you? And so a status quo was perpetuated. And this year we're looking to make some adjustments based on enrollment.
Some
things like that.
improvements.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much for your work.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, L, bond business reports, monthly bond report.
Good evening, Chair Morse and the board. I'm tonight we are just giving an update on the February end of month report for capital projects that was in your board packet. And in that report, we talked about South Shore Elementary School getting dried in February, which was a great milestone for that project. And then also talked about two other projects receiving bids. One was West Albany High baseball netting project, and the other one was the CFU roofing project for South Albany High School that you saw the action for last month. We also talked about in that report the Central Elementary School cafeteria and handrail design, and that design starting in March, which did. So that's what the report was. There was some other business tonight, but are there any questions on that end of month report?
So the West Albany High School baseball netting project, I assume that's some netting that will protect the tennis players?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyone have any questions?
So I got to ask, so are we done? Are we out of money, and are the projects that we can do with the money we have over? When are we done?
With the bond?
With the investment of the bond funds that remain, correct?
There are projects remaining. We have Sunrise Elementary School mechanical. The South Albany High roofing project for the summer is bond funded, and there's some other CFU projects that'll be self-performed by GAPS as well.
And I'll be covering that in just a minute.
Okay. All right. So somebody's going to tell me if we have any money left beyond the stuff we've already scheduled.
I got you covered.
Thank you.
Next piece of business is West Albany High baseball netting. Notification for award, and the letter that you have in your board packet has an award going to Standard Commercial Construction for the amount of $182,525 for baseball netting installation this summer.
Did we end up getting multiple bids?
We had two bids. There's a second bid noted in the board packet documentation there.
Okay.
This is the low bid.
So is this an action item? We need to vote on this, or are you just updating us?
Requires board approval.
I would move approval as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. District facilities project report is up next.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm going to share my screen online for folks online. So I wanted to take a chance, thanks for having me be able to present this evening. I want to take a chance to kind of give you an orientation of what I've been doing the last couple months, where I'm headed and taking the departments that I supervise, and also where we're going with projects and capital improvement projects across the district as well. So here's some initial priorities I had coming to the district in January. So the first thing I wanted to do was visit all school sites. I did that. I wanted to listen and learn from as many people as I could really looking for opportunities to improve how our teachers, administrators, and students have greater success. That was my focus. I wanted to look at our buildings and our grounds, which I did. Was really important to be able to work with my departments that I supervise. So I also implemented a stewardship document. This document basically takes the organizational chart, puts a name at the top, and then it just lists all the responsibilities of that individual for the district. It let me get to know the district, who's responsible for what, have good conversations with folks doing that. So that was a good document to start, and we're still working on that. The other one, the next one here was a operations purpose document, and I'll show it to you later. I'm not going to go into detail on it, but it's for you to look at. It's a drafted document, one we will keep up and working on, but it really demonstrates where I'm trying to take these departments. That is being a service-based organization to our schools. And that's the purpose of it. And I asked three key questions. The first one is, what do you do to support students, teachers, administrators having greater success? That was a great activity to do with the departments. I did it with each of our departments. The next one is, what do we want our stakeholders to say about Albany operations, and what can we do to ensure that they are said? So you'll see that in a document in just a minute. That's been fun. We'll come back to that. I'm going to have our directors cite some goals directly to that and how they can improve that. And that's been a really enjoyable activity for us. Budget knowledge, obviously understanding the budgets that I'm responsible for was important. Understanding the construction, planning and execution that we're going to talk more about tonight. And then initially understanding that there's some large expenditures in the area of technology. I really went into some quick long-term planning with technology in that first month I was here to make sure we were set up for success in the future there. What I learned, we got great people across our district. I have great people to work with out of facilities and operations overall. They care about doing their job and doing it well, was my impression when I first visited all the schools. Really impressed. Also learned that our maintenance work request system, I've been a part of a lot of different systems like this in the districts that I've worked with. FMX is our system. How to execute that, fully utilize that is something that will be priorities for us going forward. I found some things in grounds that we need to prioritize, and we tackled some of them over spring break, although spring break wasn't a great weather week for us here to get a lot of projects done. We were impacted a little bit, but we've started that. And then really providing that attention to the bond projects and ESSER funded projects that we'll go into, and then identifying what's self-performed and what is HMK performs, what's left, what's the money's left, is where I dove in to really fully understand it. So tonight's going to be a really broad overview. And then in the coming months, I'll come back with specifics of what's left, when it's going to be done, who's going to do it moving forward. Skip's been a great resource for me to learn this material. And he has a lot of the history that I don't have. So if you have questions, he might have to answer them for me because I don't have that history. So this is that document. I won't go into detail with this, but it shares what we've been doing across the different departments. Is just what is our driving purposes going to be. And so this has just been this will change and ebb and flow as my work goes forward. So the bottom right-hand corner, anybody have any idea where that comes from? If you had a chance to look at it much. Any guess? So I've used this for years, and some of this works well in schools. Some of it may, right? You got a guess? Yeah. I've used these terms over the years for just having great dialogue about serving our schools, and it's actually the 10 Commandments of Les Schwab. Which is funny, but when I picture that, when you picture the commercials, you see somebody running from the building out to the parking lot to greet you, right? So it kind of sets that mindset of what we're trying to do here in operations and serving our schools and ensuring they have success with their students. So some good question starters in here. So I've put that in there to lead our staff through some discussions about that, but that's where that comes from. So let's get into some of the projects and just really the funding. I had to put this together for myself to make sense of it. It may be an overview for some of you, so I apologize for that. But then the next couple months, we'll dive in deeper to the specifics here. So we have three major funds for funding our projects across our district. Those are bond, the ESSER funds, and then the capital improvement funds as well. So the bond funds currently, and this changes over a week's time. This is actually pretty approximate to last month, but we currently have $7.5 million of funded projects that are still being done. Those are 13 projects, 3 of which are being performed by HMK, 10 of which are performed by facilities. Okay, 10 that we are responsible for. Took a while to get a handle on that, right? And understand that. So in the bond remaining, we have $4 million that's unallocated to a project, except for the South Albany. That one is now allocated. That was in that group last month. Okay. So we have 4 projects proposed at this time that are coming out of that $4 million. One is HMK at this time, and that's the roofs that you approved last month. Okay. So those are really broad numbers. They're a little bit approximations, but pretty darn close. Okay.
I'm sorry. So one is the south roof. What are the other 3?
I'll show you in the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. So the ESSER funded projects, generally, there was about $10 million of projects there. 4 projects, 3 were performed by HMK. 1 is being self-performed. And then we had some capital improvement projects, and there's 3 projects there, and I'll share those with you. So these are the bond projects that are currently funded and are actively being done. And that's the West Albany High School post-construction. Those are being done by those are kind of joint performed because we're doing some things. HMK still has some remaining bits there. The baseball net is one of those. And then the HMK performed projects are some fire upgrades that are still ongoing in Sunrise Elementary mechanical. And Skip can speak to those if you have questions. But again, this is a broad overview, and we'll bring some more details back to you in the coming months. The self-performed projects you see on the right, those 10s, those are our responsibilities in the district to be taken care of. And those are the projects that were listed in the documents that I received that were planned prior to me coming. So the unallocated funded projects, these are from the CFU list. Those again are the South Albany High School roof. There's a little piece of the Sunrise Elementary mechanical in there. Those are HMK performed. And then some of the proposed projects are the South Shore Elementary School mechanical and the North Albany Middle School mechanical phase 2. Those are the larger handlers that go up on the roof, not the classroom ones. So those are ones that have been proposed in the CFU list when I came.
Are there numbers to come, or should I ask questions now? Because I'm in my mind trying to balance this.
Yeah, so I did not put specific numbers in those about what each of those costs. I can definitely bring that to you next time.
So just in general terms, as I understand it, there's $4 million left in bond funds to do the South Albany roof.
Yep.
Some work at Sunrise.
Yep. And those next 2 projects.
So what did the south roof come in again at? What is that?
So what I would like to do, Roger, if you bear with me here, is the $7.5 million projects up here. Okay. Of that $7.5 million, I think we're going to come significantly under budget for that. So in the next couple presentations to you, I'll be bringing you updated numbers of what I think we're going to come in with those projects. But that's the planning my team's doing right now. What's left? When's it going to be done? What are the costs? And planning out those projects. So that's why I've kept it pretty broad right now instead of specific of what's included in each of those projects.
So for me, at least, specific going forward would be better than broad, because we're how many years into the bond now? I think the intent was to have this, whatever projects we were going to do, done and spin out.
Yeah. So when I approach this work, I had to stay pretty broad to make sense of it. And now I'm getting into the specifics with my team of what's left, what's planned, what can we pull off, what do we need to contract out to get the work done. And that's the planning that we're doing right now. And it's been good work, good planning, good teamwork. They meet twice a week to do that in the mornings for 2 hours. And it's one of the first opportunities they've had to do that work. So it's coming from them, and I've been really pleased with the progress that they're making on that.
Okay, so if I can, Mr. Chair, I have another question. You had there's a long list there of self-performed.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, it's been some time since the bond was passed and the money was available. How confident are you that we can self-perform the self-performed list of projects?
That's what I'm working on my team with. That list right there, I'm pretty confident we can perform that. But the question's going to be, and that's you're going into one of my last slides here, but we can address it now. What can we perform? What might we need to contract out because of the staffing size that we have? And we also have to maintain our buildings in the current work that we have. So that's a real balancing act. So as I get our cost honed in a little bit, I'll be able to have more conversations about what can we contract out. Because it's double the cost to contract out to do this work, but what do we have the capacity to finish? And that's what I have my team start tackling about a month ago.
So at least as importantly as if you have to contract it out, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah. It'll come from the $4 million unallocated or the $7.5 million that we save, because those projects will come in under cost.
Okay. Thank you.
Good questions. So there's the self-performed projects that we're currently doing. Timber Ridge boiler was recently replaced. There was a failure there. And you may not have known this, but the South Albany High School boiler failed. And so we have a $40,000 boiler put into that. So I don't think our patrons experienced any cold water in the pool, but our two boilers that were running that pool were working really hard to keep that sucker warm. So, but they have it coming in. I believe it's been put in place, but I'm not completely sure about that.
Did you replace that right before COVID?
No, not to my knowledge.
There were a couple days where people had to swim extra fast.
That's the reason why, then.
Proved their times, but yeah.
Yeah, we were working off of 2 boilers there for a while, and there's 4 there, is my understanding. So that was completed. Some other projects that I identified going around to the schools that I just thought were immediate needs. The one on the top right was our tracks at Bull School. Now that we have our track program back, we use some of the SIA dollars to bring in some cinder from over the mountain. Actually, we had to bring it in from the Bend area, and we're able to resurface those. We are having a little bit of an issue with the leveling of that. Some of our equipment, we thought that they would be able to spread that around our tracks. It was so wet they couldn't get on them, so we had to move it manually onto our tracks. So we're really working on trying to get it level. We've been out there working on it quite a bit. I did have an estimate from Knife River to come in and do it right, so we're going to be working on that tomorrow. This was a room I went into my visit to South Albany. This is the baseball hitting area there on the left, when I went into that room, there was 50 students warming up and stretching in there prior to their workout. And you can see the insulation was falling on them. And we, over a weekend, contracted out some work and put plywood up on the ceiling and made that area a much better area for our students at South Albany High School. So that was a immediate project that we pulled off here in the last month. Here's our staffing that we have to do this work. It was my understanding in the organizational charts that prior, when we were actively into the bond, that we had 3 additional HVAC people doing this work. So that's been a challenge for us moving forward. But and then I also heard in the prior months that you had some concerns about the HVAC warranty that were presented. And I heard that, I believe, in our first meeting. So I went to my staff and asked them about that. And here's what they said. They said they were purchased in bulk to save costs. And when they were purchased, the 10 HVAC units were about 70,000. Now they're about 115. They all are out of warranty. But really the only piece in there that is the expensive part of it is the motor. And those motors are highly reliable, and they're about $2,000 to replace. So my staff's not really concerned about the warranties being expired because there's really low risk there. So the same goes through with our ventilators. Those are the classroom units. Again, they were purchased. They're about $3,600 when they were purchased, and now they're about $7,000 a piece. So that's about, in total, that's about $65,000 versus $126 now. And again, those motors are pretty cheap to replace, and they haven't had any issues with them. So I didn't see a lot of concerns about the warranty expired. I think the main concern is how can we get them installed and how quickly can we do that? That's the priority. So I wanted to bring that to you. So the continue work for me is the team planning to scope out these projects, the cost, the hour, and the timeline of those, identify some future CFU projects, whether or not they're going to be contract or self-performed. We've kind of talked about that a little bit. And then we also have to factor in our building maintenance needs too, and making sure our maintenance is done right so we don't have more failures because we're not out there maintaining our equipment. Got to monitor costs. I'm starting interviews tomorrow to hire our district facilities director. And my plan is to partner with Skip, and Skip go first and I'll go second. I'll update you each month on how we're progressing with this work. I know it's important. There's a lot of work to be done, and we intend to do it and do it well. And I didn't even put a slide for questions. So,
well done. No, good job.
But I would be happy to entertain some questions if you have.
Any questions from the board?
I do.
Brad.
Dave, when it says about the 10 HVAC units, those don't have air conditioning. Are they just air handlers? They're not.
Skip, you might have to help me out there.
I believe they're heating and ventilation only.
Right, yeah. So I don't know that HVAC is the correct label on that. I don't want to give people the wrong idea that it's actually air conditioning. It's not. It's just fresh air handling.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, any other questions?
I think we need to see projects. We need to see numbers. We need to see a projection on how this all ends in the way of the bonds and what's done and when. And then we didn't really get into much detail on the ESSER side of things, right?
Right.
So I feel like I'm still looking at a puzzle in which I don't have all the pieces to, and I want to see the puzzle put together and how it looks.
So you saw the crew size, right? And so the self-performed, we could not, Roger, go out and do all that work at once with that crew and still service our buildings, right? There are some limitations to knowing what that would be. But if there's an order to the process.
Well, so I do think that we need to know if there's stuff on the self-perform list that will be 3 or 4 years out, and whether or not that's preferable to paying a little bit more and getting it all done now. And if you do that, there may be a couple things that don't get funded you might otherwise. So it's
Roger, I completely agree with you. And I have the spreadsheet right here of the work where they have each building to the dollar amount, what it's going to take to finish it. But I just haven't scoped out the time yet of what it's going to take. They haven't finished their work yet, but I'll bring that to you specifically for each project because that's important. In order for us to do it, we have to understand what's left and what's going to be completed. What can we contract out to get done quicker? And how's that affect our costs? So that those details are coming.
Do you have a Gantt chart then?
Go ahead, Brett. And one thing I think we probably need to do is be realistic on what type of projects we can do and kind of make a list of what we can with our available employees so that we don't burn them out and make a real reasonable estimation of what's within our capabilities and what we can take on and what we shouldn't.
Yeah, and it's the timing too. If you do it in the summer versus a school, like right now, the air handlers at North Albany Middle School, they could be putting those in after school by each classroom. But in order to do that, you have to shut off the system. Well, the way the system's set up, you have to shut off the whole system in order to do one. So it's just a limitation of when they can do things. So those are the things that they're discussing and planning. They want to get this work done too, and they want to do it well. It's just they haven't been in a room planning and to execute this in a while. So this is new to them, and they're doing great work on that.
Thank you.
And I'll bring you the details in the coming months of this.
Dave, it sounds like you have a good plan and you're going to bring us more fidelity with it. And I think that's what we're looking for, but I think we're on the right road. So thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay. Next is L4, disposal of district property.
Yes, let me get back to my. So in order for us to move forward with the sale of the old bus barn area, the board, according to policy DN, you have to declare that property as surplus for us to move forward for this potential sale of that property. And that takes board action.
Do you have questions?
Any questions? Go ahead. None? Okay.
I'm going to declare a conflict here on the vote, a potential conflict. As my day job, I represent Lynn County, and they may very well be interested in a purchase. So,
Roger, you're not going to vote.
Roll away from the desk here. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on this?
I know we have additional properties in the district. Have we? And I know this is directly to this motion, but have we done analyzed the other what I would consider surplus properties of the district?
We have not. This is important in large part because it helps to balance the books on the current transportation facility project. We have not looked at other properties.
Okay. Mr. Chair, per policy DN, disposal of district property, the board may declare, make a move to declare old transportation facility surplus property and authorize its disposal as recommended by district staff.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. And let the record show that Roger is not participating. Okay. We're up a new business, M1, education excellent contract approval.
Yeah, for your approval tonight is a contract funded from two separate federal funds, Title 2A and Title 4 for Ed Excellence. You are receiving this proposal because by policy, anything over $150,000 is to be approved by the board. We recommend its approval. The title funds relate to adult learning, which of course is an incredibly important thing. And we would continue to do this, even though we may be in a tighter time period. Adult learning is important. It is always in step with student learning. We can't shut this down because it has such an impact on student learning. And you can see that there are some notes there, but essentially Title 2A is staff development. Title 4 is student support, academic enrichment. And we've put those in both.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the educational excellence contract proposal as presented.
Oh, this is new business.
Oh,
This is just informational for tonight.
Well, I think they want us to move
Yeah,
on.
we would approve.
What exactly does this do? I mean, so this is teaching our students. Is this what we were talking about this afternoon?
So if you pull the K-12 proposal up, you can see some of the activities that are proposed in there. But essentially what we're doing is we are continuing work that has already begun, training and supporting teachers. This is the knowledge base that comes in. We have, I don't know, was it 2014, Heather? We adopted professional learning communities. This supports us in defining that work, even prior to that. So this would help us structure that time, continue to help people move forward in their learning together, as well as some of the other specific activities that are listed further down in the document. But it's a fairly comprehensive set of services that they provide, and this continues work that has happened in the past.
Okay. I guess my question is this what we were talking about yesterday?
This
I think it is.
How did this recommendation from staff how was it built?
I don't know the antecedents. I know that we have used them in the past well.
We heard from a handful of district leadership at the teaching level that this is very college-based curriculum. This is stuff they already know.
They weren't big fans.
No.
I would still want to work on how we can implement it with them. This came up the other day in our meeting. I would still want to work on how we implement that with them, but continue to have the services and the knowledge come to the district. But we did hear that they were, in some ways, the pacing was taking away some of their prep time. That it was always, they felt a high rate of learning and not enough time to work together to apply. And so that's something that we know we are working on with teachers now.
Well, yeah. And one of the things I think I heard was that it seemed like it was a lot of busy work, like it was already created, and why are we wasting our time doing this? And then when I see it attached to a dollar amount, that even makes you more concerned about it, right? So,
well, if I might, first procedurally, we have a motion. We don't have a second. We've had discussion. But I would point out that this is Title II funding and Title IV funding, not what I would call, for lack of a better term, general fund money, if you will. And I guess, Mr. Superintendent, you said you needed this and you needed it now. What happens if I don't get a second here?
Well, we'd probably, so either before or after a motion and approval, we do need to reserve their time if we were to consider doing it at all, right? And so either before or after an approval here, we believe that conversation still needs to occur with teachers. And we are committed to doing that. The pacing.
Yeah, I hear teacher efficacy, and I believe this is what this is geared towards, is super important in learning. And what I'm hearing from the superintendent is he's heard their concerns and he would like to bring on this firm, knowing that there's some issues with pacing that he's willing to work on.
Could I take that as a second to my motion?
I second that motion.
More discussion. So you're saying you're willing to work with them and talk to them about it and
Yeah, that
figure
was
out
a
a way
topic.
that this will work.
That was a topic that came up the other day at our bargaining session. And it was something that we are, continuing to work with them on, and we heard that specific concern.
So discussion before we accept $200,000 in title funds, because we will spend general fund money on our staff taking these courses and doing these courses. Would it be possible to survey staff and then vote on this on the April 24th meeting?
Go ahead, Heather.
Within the link down below, when you scroll down below, there is a little bit more detail that might help some. It gives Cliff Notes about Title IIA and Title IV, but also education excellence, their plan. I mean, so there is some more detail other than the main cover sheet of a variety of different professional development opportunities for staff, which gets to the scaffolding, perhaps in the pacing, so more veteran staff can target areas that they're interested in. We, of course, with all new teachers, want to bring everybody up to a general place of knowledge and understanding. So as they're working with their peers, everybody's got the foundational piece. I don't know if that had been noticed or not, but there are some details about the type of work that they're saying and proposing of what would occur to scaffold and provide variety.
So I think we're okay. I mean, what I hear from you, Superintendent Gardner, is you understand there's an issue. We're going to work through the issue, but this is helpful to have this right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the major themes that I heard from the teachers the other day is the idea that if they're always sitting and learning, then they don't have time to work together, and to do that work in a professional learning community, application and reflection. I think were both terms that were given about that. So how we, the information and some of the topics are important to have, but then I think our work is to figure out a pacing that allows professional learning communities, which I think we have to go back and revisit how that happens, and just kind of balance out that there is time to work together with current staff, existing staff here to do that work. And so
I'm going to repeat my question though, Mr. Superintendent. Would you have time to survey staff and move this to an April 24th vote?
I don't know about the drop dead date that they would allocate their staff for. Sue, do we have any? Is Sue here still? I don't have that information tonight.
I'd call the question.
Which means you're calling for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And you're going to work with them to make this right?
Yeah.
He's not voting.
I understand he's not voting, but I am. And so, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. M2 board policy IGBBA, talented and gifted students.
So you can see and I believe this is a reading that we are doing tonight. Is that correct? So you can see that there have been some talented and gifted changes in that policy. And at the bottom, I think the reference to the law, and you can see that there's quite a bit of new language in there. I'm trying to toggle back and forth here. And so first reading, does everybody have a chance to look at that and have any questions? Summaries there at the top. Still toggling, sorry. And you'll see we took out the AR, and these requirements, or these changes are required. Yeah.
Not that specific one.
Are there any questions? And again, that will come back at the next meeting for a motion.
Okay. M3 curriculum adoption, K through 12 math, and 9 through 12 language arts.
And I'll ask Stacy Lee to come up, and I believe she has a team of teachers tonight.
It's working on sharing my screen.
And as you guys heard at the last meeting, Stacy has been working on 2 adoptions this year. Her work has her hauling a lot of materials back and forth between this room and Grand Prairie. And it has not necessarily always been convenient, but I think some of the work that she is sharing tonight about particularly engaging the community and giving them an opportunity as well. And if you could introduce your teachers too when they have a chance to present, Stacey, that'd be awesome.
I will. Chair Morris and members of the board, tonight I'm going to share proposals for adopting new instructional materials. I'll give the big picture and have asked these volunteers from our corresponding committees to share their perspective with you directly. So as I explained in my report last board meeting, our instructional materials adoption teams have been meeting to review our options in high school language arts and K-12 mathematics. A total of 45 teachers have participated on one of these adoption committees this school year. Every school has representatives on at least one of the committees, and each committee has met 9 to 11 times this year. We've also solicited input from our colleagues and administrators across the district. Our instructional materials adoption procedure follows Board Policy 2A. In consultation with school principals, we selected committees of representative teachers. Each committee established a criteria for evaluating instructional materials, and then we began in reviewing our choices from the state adopted list. Our instructional materials adoption committee, when we were meeting last, still had a couple meetings they wanted left to continue and decide on their final option. We are now at steps 5 and 6. They've all chosen their top choice, and we have started public comment. I'll share a little bit more about that later. We're here to refer the proposed adoption to you as the school board. Let's see if it goes. There we go. Our elementary and middle school math adoption teams are both recommending Curriculum Associates iReady Classroom Mathematics. This is a brand new 2024 edition. iReady also received the highest rates from the state for K-8 instructional materials. High school math adoption is recommending Envision from Savvis, for algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. This is also a brand new 2024 edition. Our high school language arts adoption team is recommending Imagine Learning's Odell High School Literacy. If you look in your board packet, I wrote it on April 5th, and there were still 3 options at that time. By April 6th, we had chosen our top choice. The main unit readers were copyrighted in 2020, but they are added application units over the years, so some of those are much more recent. Our public comment has begun. Word went out last week through Parent Square, email, and Facebook, and we have 5 different sessions here at the district office for people to drop by, including Vice Chair Wilson came by today. They're part of what went out with the announcement are public comment online. We have these online materials, a Padlet that I created that has links to the websites and recordings of publisher presentations for everyone to see. And then there's a survey here that is how we are collecting public comment. Oh, I should mention here, I will be sharing at the next meeting, April 24th, the results from the public comment with you. Last time I spoke with you, I shared information from national research about the direct impact of high quality instructional materials on student learning outcomes, as well as on saving several hours a week of a typical teacher's time otherwise spent searching for materials of varying quality. At that time, I also highlighted state assessment data that shows math as a particularly high area of need, with approximately 4 out of 5 of our district's 8th grade students last year scoring below grade level expectations. Our district has used iReady Math Assessment Suite in select schools, primarily through Title I funding. As I showed you last time, this data also paints a picture of math as a high need. This assessment suite is included in the iReady classroom math purchase. It's important to note that this is just one component of the adoption. We've received 2 public comments already regarding iReady that are based on the assessment and the optional personalized online instruction. And these are just 2 components of the proposed adoption, which is a comprehensive math curriculum that we have not had. That said, the assessments give us detailed information about how students are progressing. It helps teachers determine where students have already mastered concepts and where they need additional support. That data is then aligned to specific curricular materials and teaching suggestions in the comprehensive iReady classroom mathematics program. So, rather than listen to me tell you more about their recommendations, I've asked volunteers from each of the committees to share with you in their own words. So our first person will be Maria Belando from Albany Options, talking about high school language arts, and then we'll kind of go in order. Cole will come from West Albany, will come for high school math. Kayla Adair from middle school math. Erin Puga, Nikki Murray, and Samantha France are all here from elementary math.
Good evening. My name is Maria Belando, and I am an English language arts teacher at Albany Options School. I'm pretty new to the career, and this experience on the language arts adoption team has been probably as positive as I could have imagined it going. We were all working very well together. We communicated effectively, even when there was a little bit of tension. But we finally, by last Thursday, we are happy to recommend Imagine Learning's Odell Literacy program. We find it incredibly engaging and relevant. All of the texts in there are, we think, age and developmentally appropriate for high school students. One teacher was even mentioning that she could see in the future engaging with the community even more because it has sort of a community engaged unit. And so as we think about our 12th graders moving into the community and into the job market and everything like that, we're really excited about that part. It's also rigorous. That was one of our rubric requirements, is that it is rigorous. It will challenge students to apply critical reading and thinking skills. And we think that Odell does that very well. In addition to the rigor, it is also supportive. There are lots of scaffolds to support students as they are challenged to think and read critically. Lastly, we found that we're excited because we think it'll improve our practice as well. So as teachers, it's challenging for us. It'll take some work up front, but it's work that we're really excited to engage in for our students. And we think that overall it will be a good investment for your students, your educators, and then eventually the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cole Pouliot. I teach at West Albany High School. I was a part of a group of 10 high school teachers that went through a lot of curriculum, and we did choose Savvis and Vision from the publisher formerly known as Pearson, and we did choose that by a super majority. A few of the reasons we chose that was because it offers a variety of resources for differentiation, has some good tips for beginning teachers and even veteran teachers about questions that might be asked or how you might answer them. And then I think probably the best part for me, one of the main reasons why I really liked it, is it has a family engagement piece to it, which we can share like on our Canvas. And it's a short video for each section showing a worked out example of the big idea or the main topic for that section. So those were some of the reasons why we chose it. We do think that most students are going to need online access for this because most teachers will probably choose to print out worksheets and note sheets for those students and then probably have an online book as a resource. But as with most publishers we looked at, Savvis does not fit the Oregon math standards perfectly. So we're also going to need a few extra resources to help fill those gaps. Two things that we identified were we'll definitely need a printer paper budget because, like I said, we'll be printing more worksheets and notes than just handing a book. And the other thing is, it's fairly cheap too, would be to get a district-wide, what's called a CUDA membership, which will help us get a lot of necessary resources. It gives you a lot of quick examples from a wide variety of like algebra and geometry topics, and it's relatively inexpensive, especially compared to textbooks. We also feel that math teachers will need some time to prepare for using this new resource. So as we continue to bargain, we think it'd be good to be mindful of that time to prepare scopes and sequences, create lessons, and work on assessments. We'd also like to advocate to the board and district leadership for time during professional learning communities, which we believe strongly should remain separate from our individual prep time for us to work on those things and work on those things across the district too. I'd love to be able to work with the people at South Albany and AOS that teach the classes that I teach. And then the last thing, our hope is that the textbook adoption will lead to better discourse and stronger lessons for our teachers, better guidance and resource for our families, and really most importantly, a deeper and fuller understanding for all of our current and future math students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Kayla Adair, and I work at Memorial Middle School. I've been there since I was a student teacher, so that's my home school. I was part of the middle school curriculum adoption team, and we decided to go with iReady, and I want to share with you a couple reasons why. iReady will have available for us middle school teachers K-8 resources, meaning our students with learning gaps as large as 3 to 5 years, I will be able to access resources to help them, which is very different from what we have right now, which I think might be part of the reason why our numbers look the way they do. Some of the resources, can you guys hear me? I can't tell if I'm like talking. Okay, forgive me, I'm nervous. Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so there are reteach lessons available for us to use if the planned lessons didn't work out for some of our students, which some of us need repetition, me included. They have math center activities. They have enrichment activities for our students who did get it the first time. And we also have digital individualized lesson pathways, which will help them in a digital interface so that they're familiar with that when they take these statewide assessments that test them digitally. We have detailed diagnostic data, which I'm very excited about, because I will not only have resources to help my students, but I will know which students need what kind of help. It groups our students based on their results. So that helps me know, like, okay, this group of students is 3 or more grade levels behind, so this is the kind of support I'm going to need for them. These students are only 1 grade level behind. This is the kind of support I'm going to need for them. And there is a lot of goal setting and metacognition that we can do with our students. And then just 2 more things. We have one thing I'm very excited about is that there are built-in structures for rigorous conversation, and there are opportunities for students to discuss mathematics in a meaningful way and develop their academic language with the support of sentence frames or sentence, whatever you want to call them, blank, 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 insert word, blank, 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 because they need it. One thing that made iReady stand out better or above the rest is that they have resources available for students in Spanish right now for us to use. And another thing that was very attractive to us was that the reading level of these contextually based problems start off at a year under their current grade level, and then they progressively get more difficult. So that also helps us in a math classroom support our reading goals as a district. So that is why I'm excited about iReady, and I hope you consider it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Hi, I'm Erin Pugat. I teach 5th grade at Timber Ridge. So I'm kind of the bridge between the middle school people and the elementary school people, because although I teach 5th grade, I get to see my 5th graders continue as middle schoolers, which is the best. The thing that I am looking forward to if we purchase iReady is that as a 5th grade teacher, I'm always looking to prepare my students for 6th grade. And the transition from 5th grade to 6th grade is challenging for all the reasons you would expect that it is. But mathematically, the middle school standards are significantly more abstract for students. And so it's a leap to go from 5th grade to 6th grade. And your curriculum, you know, in math, there's like one right answer, but many pathways to the correct answer. And when you are looking at mathematical curriculum, different curricula select different strategies. They emphasize certain things, they de-emphasize other things. And by selecting one unified curriculum, K-8, we did not do that intentionally. It just worked out that both the elementary and the middle school committees chose the same curriculum, which I think does speak to the curriculum. But having those exact same strategies, the same models, the same language, I'm just very hopeful that my 5th graders, when they move to 6th grade, will be like, oh yeah, we did that. And then they can take those really concrete ideas that we built in 5th grade and take it more abstract in 6th grade. So for me, that is huge. The other thing that iReady has that I'm really hopeful about is the diagnostic assessments. We have really lacked any kind of assessment that has like national norms. And so anytime we're looking at our MTSS data, especially for math, looking at interventions, looking at maybe a student who may need special education services, we have really not had tools that show what we've done and where kids are headed. So I'm hopeful that this will meet that need. That has been a huge lack in the district. So I'm excited about that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
I apologize. I also am nervous because I'm used to talking to little 4th graders and they're a little less scary, but not that you are, but just a little nervous. Okay. Anyway, so my name is Nikki Murray. I'm at Central. I teach 4th grade. And first, I just want to thank the entire team of the Math Adoption for Elementary. It has been such a great experience. This is only my 4th year teaching. I say it as like, this is my only, it's been a long time. It's been a long road. But it was a really great experience to be able to talk to other teachers from other schools and different experiences and have like positive collaborative discussions while putting our students first along with our teachers. It was just been a really great experience and we've made a lot of jokes and I feel like I made a lot of friends too, which is nice because Central is kind of small, obviously. So it's been nice. But I'm really excited about our decision for iReady, as I feel like, as Erin mentioned before, we have lacked a lot of intervention. And I do feel as though coming as a teacher who's already used the diagnostic, it's going to really benefit our students in terms of the interventions that we are missing out on right now, along with the differentiation piece inside our actual lessons, so that I can potentially do more small group lessons with certain kids. Sorry, I'm like so nervous. Usually I'm not. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right. And so I'm excited for that portion. And then I'm also really excited that this curriculum in particular, out of all the ones that we have looked at, really allow entry points for all students. And that's something I noticed a lot this year with my current 4th grade class, is that they need multiple opportunities to solve one type of problem. And I feel like iReady does that extremely well. And so I'm just really excited for the new opportunities that we can give our students, especially with the different assessments that are embedded in iReady. And I think we're just going to see a lot of growth and a lot more confidence within our students for math, because that seems to be something that all students love is math. That's kind of changed as I've taught over the last few years. So I'm excited for our students to be able to be more confident and have better collaborative discussions with each other, because that's what we're really looking for. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha France and I teach 1st grade at Sunrise. So they're real little, and hopefully I can handle talking to you. I'm really excited about iReady because I am a teacher that uses the diagnostic, and I feel like the problem that I've had with it right now is that the material I'm instructing with does not align with the diagnostic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, if we adopt iReady as our main curriculum, what that will do to our students' scores, because the types of questions will be similar. And obviously the diagnostic was designed by the same folks. So that's something that I think will be really beneficial for us when we're looking at our need for math intervention and, like Nikki had mentioned, our ability to make our small groups. I'm also really excited about the resources that they offer. We, as a district right now, don't have math intervention, but I think that it gives us a lot of opportunities to handle some form of math intervention within our own classrooms with those resources. And like they mentioned, to be able to go back to the grade levels that you need. I can only go back to kindergarten, but, or go ahead for students who need that additional challenge. I'm also just excited for a change, and I think that a lot of other teachers are excited for something different. And so I'm looking forward to the energy that that will bring to our buildings as teachers are excited about the curriculum that they have and how that will transition to students and their excitement for math. And lastly, I'm just really grateful that I was able to be a part of the team. Stacy and Kirsten did a wonderful job. I feel like they answered all of our questions and that the process was wonderful. And so, yeah, thank you. I hope you can start.
Thank you.
We have at least 4 more members here, but I hadn't asked them to talk. But I'm so grateful for how many people in our team showed up and stayed this late, and really just proud of them. As I mentioned earlier, they spent at least 9 meetings after school this year. Our high school language arts spent 11 meetings after school. I don't know. We stopped counting for them. We didn't want them to freak out. And they are just super committed teachers. We have you heard from some of our newer teachers who are really excited to have been part of that, but we have several veteran teachers who have done this several times that continue to agree to serve and be on committees and take their work really seriously. I think the lowest number that we looked at was 6 options. We had a high school math looked at 9 options, 10 options. It was a lot. And so they took it seriously. I do have some initial quotes. So I spoke with the sales representatives and gave them some initial numbers. For K-8 math, this is remembering looking at 9 grade levels and including their full assessment suite. Right now it's looking at 1.9 million, just over 1.9 million. For 9th and 12th grade math, this is just for the algebra, geometry, algebra 2. We'll also need to look at some purchases that are specific to things like AP calculus that we have to follow what fits within the College Board recommendations. And we may also look at some things like increasing the print budget, as school mentioned. And so, right, for the AGA and Visions, it's 607. And for 9-12 language arts, this one, as I mentioned, they just decided last Thursday, there are several units within it. So the way the language arts is set up, it has a beginning unit and an application unit. And then there are several units in between that you can choose from that have different costs depending on whether we're buying like Romeo and Juliet. If we choose that one, do we already have enough copies of Romeo and Juliet? Do we need to really buy that many? But our initial quote from them is $479,365. So we're looking at a total of about $2.7 million for all of these things combined. This is something that I'll be working with Superintendent Gardner and Director Knopfsiger about how does this fit in our budget process and where those funds would come from. And once again, I want to thank our adoption team members. As I mentioned, we have 45 different teachers participate in this. Our program specialists in TOSAs, especially Kirsten Aldrich for math and Bree Zika Smith, who just gave birth last Friday to her little boy for language arts. And our instructional coaches and especially our building administrators for both supporting the process this year and the implementation of the curriculum we adopted last year.
I want to identify, even if they didn't speak, who else is here, because they're here.
Marcy MacArthur is here. Allison Bryan is here, both from high school math. We have Michaela Quintilla here for middle school and Leila Fitzner from elementary math. Did I miss anybody? No. Heidi has helped out with especially with Kirsten and Bree both being new moms. Heidi Weatherall has stepped in and helped quite a bit too. Questions?
Well,
that's the whole thing.
One, where's the money going to come from? And that's a different conversation, I guess we'll figure out. But I just commend all of you for the work that you've put into this. You clearly own it by your enthusiasm and comments. And I'm a little concerned that we've invested all of that time, and the public engagement part is just right at the very end, and it's a really small window, and y'all have done great work. And if we in the future could get more out front on that, because there's a lot of rumors and a lot of misinformation about what the curriculum is and what it isn't. And hopefully the comments we get back are positive and all good. And just going forward, having more sunlight on the process, if you will, with the public, I think would help us avoid any political tension or friction by outside forces at the end, which none of us want.
I agree that none of us want that. We would encourage people to please come and look at the materials and to look at what is online. And I will be sharing that with you at the board meeting next time. I just want to mention and remind you that we did have comment from colleagues. And so we've been sharing along with the process and have had 2 different opportunities for input from people across the district, if not the general public.
Thank you.
The other thing, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I did have a chance to come in and look at it today, and you all should be very proud. I was very impressed with your selections. I thought that the curriculum you selected is going to be excellent. I hope that we can get it done for you. I only spent about 45 minutes looking it over, but I was impressed with the way it flowed, with the way it looked, the way it all tied together. I think it'll be an excellent addition. Good job.
Thank you very much, Andy. Did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, just one comment. This is high school language arts and K-12 math. I think not all topics are created equally. I think that, you heard that there are great assessments, things like that in math. Math doesn't tend to be as controversial as some other subject areas, but we definitely want to listen to that in the future.
I hear from the public that when our test scores don't come out good, that there's a tendency to attack the process, and then in the end, I appreciate what you're saying, but y'all have done so much work, and the public really deserves to know all of the work you've done, and that we all should be so proud of this. And great work. You worked within the parameters that were set out, and going forward, we can talk about them. Thank you.
I just want to commend Stacy again and all of her teams. She was running several teams, and just for her organization and work to bring this about. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you
very much.
Okay, and future agenda items. Roger, go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank everybody who attended tonight. Many of them aren't here, but maybe they're watching. We're not that darn exciting tonight, but 3 hours is a long meeting.
It is.
Going forward, if we could figure out a way to get something done more concisely. I'm not that big a fan of meeting more often, but if that's what it takes to do something in 90 minutes or a couple hours, we should consider it.
Okay, next, other business. 01, administrative regulation, IGBBA.
Yeah, that's just related to the talent and gifted. It's the administrative rule.
Okay. So that's just for us to look at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?